Okay, we're going.
How's it going, class?
Good!
Fantastic. Today we're going to be going over a reading comprehension lesson with the story of Cinderella as our main subject. Are you familiar with the story of Cinderella?
No, but I am with Davy Jones.
That's a cool book too. I enjoy that book a lot. Let's talk about Cinderella though, because we're going to be reading how Cinderella is different from different parts of the world. You get a completely different story, but there's also some things that are similar. Are you familiar with plot? That word are you familiar with that word, plot?
Yes, but I don't really know what it means.
It's like a series of events in a story, and how they unfold. It's pretty much how a story, the events in a story. Are you familiar with the term setting? Like where the story takes place?
Well, I think maybe it takes place at home, at settings.
Right, so, like in any particular story where it takes place is where the setting is, and that's
Yeah.
one thing we're going to be looking at when we read Cinderella. How about characters? You familiar with that term?
Cam and Cam.
The characters, exactly, right? The people that are in the
Cam
story.
and Cam and Mom.
Absolutely, right? It's the people that are in the
Does
story.
he have a dad?
We're going to find that out, right, when we read the story.
Yeah.
So with Cinderella, we have certain characters. We have a wicked stepmother, we have a dad, we have a prince, we have Cinderella herself, wicked stepsisters. We're going to read all about them. So what we're going to do now is, since we've gone over plot, setting, and characters, I want you to focus on these things when we read the actual story of Cinderella, because we're going to be writing a chart of these particular things as we read it.
Okay.
All right, class, we're going to be reading Cinderella. I'm going to actually be reading it to you, so I want you to really pay attention to those things that we talked about: plot, setting, and characters, okay? So pay really close attention and follow along. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Woo.
Once upon a time, there was a widower who married a proud and haughty woman as a second wife. She had 2 daughters who were equally vain and selfish by his first wife. He'd had a beautiful young daughter, a girl of unparalleled goodness and sweet temper. The stepmother and her daughters forced the first daughter into servitude, where she was made to work day and night in menial chores. After the girl's chores were done for the day, she would retire to the barren and cold room given to her, and would curl up near the fireplace in an effort to stay warm. She would often rise covered in cinders, giving rise to the mocking name Cinderella. That's where she got her name. Cinderella bore the abuse and patiently dared not tell her father, since his wife controlled him entirely.
Next one.
Yes. One day, the prince invited all the young ladies to the land, to the ball, planning to choose a wife from amongst them. The 2 stepsisters gleefully planned their wardrobes for the ball and taunted Cinderella by telling her that maids were not invited to the ball. As the sisters departed to the ball, Cinderella cried in despair. Suddenly, her fairy godmother magically appeared and immediately began to transform Cinderella from a house servant to a beautiful young lady. She turned a pumpkin into a golden carriage, mice into horses, a rat into a coachman, and lizards into footmen. She then turned Cinderella's rags into a beautiful jeweled gown, complete with a delicate pair of glass slippers. The godmother told her to enjoy the ball, but warned that she had to return before midnight when the spell would be broken. At the ball, the entire court was entranced by Cinderella, especially the prince. At this first ball, Cinderella remembers to leave before midnight. Back home, Cinderella graciously thanked her godmother. She then greeted the stepsisters, who had not recognized her earlier, and talked of nothing but the beautiful girl at the ball.
Now, who is the beautiful? That one?
Yes, that's Cinderella.
Ah.
Yeah. And her stepsisters are the ones in the background, very jealous. Another ball was held the next evening, and Cinderella again attended with her godmother's help. The prince had become even more infatuated, and Cinderella in turn in turn, became so enchanted by him, she lost track of time and left only at the final stroke of midnight, losing one of her glass slippers on the steps of the palace in her haste. The prince chased her, but outside the palace, the guard saw only a simple country girl leaving. The prince pocketed the slipper and vows to find and marry the girl to whom it belonged. Meanwhile, Cinderella kept the other slipper, which did not disappear when the spell was broken. The prince tried the slipper on all the women in the kingdom. When the prince arrives at Cinderella's villa, the stepsisters tried in vain to win over the prince. Cinderella asked if she might try, while the stepsisters taunted her. Naturally, the slipper fit perfectly, and Cinderella produced the other slipper for good measure. These stepsisters both pleaded for forgiveness, and Cinderella agreed to let bygones be bygones. Cinderella married the prince, and the stepsisters also married two lords.
Well, I say what's kind of different, or not different in
Sure.
is they're both selfish and vain.
Yeah, they are. The two sisters, huh?
Yeah.
And the stepmother too, because
Yeah.
she just seemed to only be worried about what her daughters were doing, and she cared little about Cinderella. About these elements of the story that we discussed earlier, but in particular for Cinderella. So, can you help me out with filling out this chart?
I guess so. It's about what would
Fantastic.
happen or the characters.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at each element of the story. So, first of all, who are the main characters?
Well, Cinderella.
Sure. As I'm filling out my chart, I would like you to fill out yours.
Is this my chart?
Yes.
The main characters. Where's my? Oh, my pencil. Cinderella.
Who else was in the story?
What was the mom's name?
She was a stepmother.
Stepmother. Mother.
Who
What
else was in
was
the story?
Tam's name in
She was a stepsister.
stepsister?
Stepsister.
Sister.
Who else was in the story?
I can't forget.
Who held the ball?
Grandmother.
Well, the fairy godmother. Yes, very good.
Godmother?
She was really nice to Cinderella, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She gave her all her things, her beautiful dress and her slippers. Who else was in the story that you can recall? Who held the ball?
I can't forget.
Who fell in love with Cinderella? Who danced with her? He was a member of the royal family?
The prince?
Yes, perfect. Now, let's talk about the setting. Remember, the setting is what happened in the story. The setting, what happened in the story. What
I thought it was where it was.
You mean the plot?
You're right. You're right. The setting is
Okay,
when and where it happened. Very good. Very good. So where did it take place? What locations did it take place in?
What location should it
Yeah,
take?
where did the story take place?
Well, at home in the ball.
At Cinderella's house, and then where was the ball? It was at the where did the prince usually live?
Grandmother's, maybe?
Or a castle?
A castle.
Perfect. Okay, so a castle
Oh.
and Cinderella's house, right?
How about Cinderella's house? Yeah.
Perfect.
Cinderella's house.
Now let's go back to the plot. You really know what the plot is, so let's talk
Well,
about
what
the
is the plot? What happened?
Right.
Alright, well, the
What
plot.
was the major thing that happened?
Well, she lost her slipper and they went to a ball.
Absolutely. She went to the ball and then she lost her slipper, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Lost her slipper. You know, that you know who the main character is, we can just put her.
Right.
Because that's what I've been learning in school. Lost her
Absolutely.
slipper. I'm not too good at my spelling.
No,
so
that's
just-
perfect. That's
just-
perfect. Good job.
I think it's supposed to have two P's in slipper.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Alright, well, lost her slipper, went to a ball, danced with a prince.
Right. Right. Very good. Very good. That's a perfect chart.
To a ball.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this chart, okay, we're going to leave it up on the board. You keep yours.
Ooh, and guess what? She had to do chores.
Remember that? She had to do chores because her stepmother's treated her so bad.
Had to do.
So, what we're going to do now is we're going to do something real fun. We're going to read a story
Sure.
about Cinderella from a different country. And the story is called Tam and Cam.
Okay.
All right, class. Well, thank you for helping me fill out this chart about Cinderella. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be discussing
Cam and Cam.
another story.
Yeah.
And now I want you to pay attention, though, with this story because we're going to pay attention to the same things. We're going to pay attention to the plot, the setting, and the characters. But we're going to keep in mind that this is a different author and this is from a different part of the world. Okay? It's from Vietnam. So let's read Tam and Cam.
All right. We'll see what is different and
Absolutely. That's what we're going to do. Perfect.